that argument with his people. And the people, they decided to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. And one of the beautiful points of the story at that moment in time, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he argues with his people in a kind yet very frank manner. This is something that a lot of people forget when it comes to having proper dialogue. You notice that throughout his interactions with people, he never offends them personally. The worst thing, or rather the most harshest thing, the most stern thing that Ibrahim alayhi salam says is, he says, أُفٍّ لَكُمْ وَلِمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. And that means a sign of disgust. But you have to notice the way that Ibrahim alayhi salam says it. Why is he disgusted? He is not disgusted at who these people are as physical human beings, but he is disgusted at that shirk, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed human beings with their intellect. Yet through this shirk that they've committed, they've fallen down from that intellect. Even animals know their Lord. Even animals know who created them. Yet a human being, when he starts worshipping these idols that some people do, it is as if they're throwing away that uqul, that intellect, that understanding. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He talks to the mushrikeen throughout the Quran, you will see time and time again, Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He addresses them, He ends those verses with أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you not have comprehension? Do you not have intellect or understanding? So this is the way that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he talks at a time where there is a need to talk in a soft way. He speaks to his father in a soft way. When he needs to be more stern, he speaks more stern. So these people, when they run out of ideas, first they try to argue with them. But then when they don't know how to respond, their response is violence. So they say, قَالُوا حَرِّقُوهُ وَانصُرُوا آلِهَتَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ فَاعِلِينَ. So they want to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. And the tafsir, the scholars of tafsir, they mention in their books that these people ended up gathering wood for the fire for many days. And they would collect, every single person in the community would collect. The old man, the young fit boy, the little toddler, the children would all help each other in bringing firewood to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. So subhanAllah, this became an event that brought the people together, subhanAllah. You know how people, they say unity and unity and unity. But this is a good example to show that unity by itself is not good or bad. What is required is that that unity be upon good, to be upon the Quran and the Sunnah. If that unity is upon something good, then the outcome is good. But if that unity is upon evil, then the outcome is evil. These people, the people of Ibrahim alayhi salam, they were united. What united them was the hatred of Ibrahim alayhi salam and what he came with, and they wanted to burn him alive. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla always reminds us in the Quran, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Reminding people that we should help each other when it comes to righteousness and goodness. That when it comes to piety and righteousness, we should help each other. Because there are people that help each other in evil. When it comes to evil, either they physically help the person. It might buy them a ticket to go to a different country to do evil. Or at the very least, they help the person in evil by not stopping that person. If you are a true friend, if you see your brothers and sisters doing something that they shouldn't be doing, real friendship, real brotherhood and real sisterhood is that you take the person to the side and you advise them and you give them nasiha. That is what true love is. But to say, oh, this person is my friend, and the person smokes and drinks and does all the things that Islam says you shouldn't be doing, then there's a problem. And now again, this is general speech. Doesn't mean that any person that has a friend that might be doing haram, that's you are necessarily responsible for that. But at the very least, you should have a concern. If you're not acting, you should be thinking, how can I help this person? Maybe I can call someone else to speak to this person. Maybe I can approach this situation in a different way. So if you don't even have those thoughts, if you don't even think about your friend or people that are close to you, then that shows what type of person you are. And it is never too late to change. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, these people are united in their hatred for him. So they gather all this wood and they light the fire. They light that fire. And in narrations it is mentioned that the fire was a very high fire. Okay? So high that if the birds flew over the fire, the bird would fall down dead. This is how high the flames were. Not only that, but in some narrations it says that the people, when they wanted to throw Ibrahim alayhi salam into the fire, they couldn't. No one could get close to the fire out of the intense heat. It was so hot, they couldn't get close to it. So what did they decide to do? They put Ibrahim alayhi salam on a catapult. You know a catapult? Those things that they used back in the day, you place something and then you fire and then it throws it over. So they put Ibrahim alayhi salam from a distance, they tied him up and they put him into that catapult and they threw him into the fire, in the middle of the fire. And now they thought, khalas, that is the end of Ibrahim alayhi salam. But what happened? Nothing is too difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah Azza wa Jalla wants to protect someone, no one can harm him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Oh, Allah Azza wa Jalla spoke to that fire and said, oh fire, become coolness and safety for Ibrahim. The scholars in Islam, they say, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, Bardan wa salama. Coolness and safety. Because even cold can hurt. If it gets too cold, person gets frostbite. Person can lose their limbs. People die in the cold. And we know it very well in this part of the world. Right? So Allah Azza wa Jalla said to the fire, become cold. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, he spent some time in that fire. And later on, when he was speaking about the fire, when he's asked about the best time on the face of the earth, he said, it was the time that I spent in the fire. Allahu Akbar. This is Ibrahim alayhi salam. And before he was thrown into the fire, he said one statement. He said, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. Allah Azza wa Jalla is sufficient for me, and He is the one that takes care of affairs in the best way. And Allah Azza wa Jalla protected him. And this was not only the practice of Ibrahim alayhi salam, but of the other prophets too. Prophet Mohamed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when people tried to scare him and they said, إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا, and they said, وَقَالُوا حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. When people came to the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, and they tried to scare them, and they said to them, all the people have gathered against you. You don't have any friends. Everyone is against you. What was their response? They said, حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. That Allah Azza wa Jal is our Hasib, He is the one that is sufficient for us, and He is the one that disposes of affairs in the best way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Ibrahim alayhi salam from that fire, and to us it might sound amazing, and no doubt it was amazing, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything is possible. And this is not the first time that something amazing like that has happened. When Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, or rather the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us about the past prophets, a prophet named Yush'a bin Nun, the Prophet alayhi salam after Musa alayhi salam, Allah Azza wa Jal stopped time itself for him in order for him to win a battle. The sun was about to set, and Allah Azza wa Jal stopped the sun from setting. This is mentioned. Allah Azza wa Jal gave that immense miracle to Musa alayhi salam when Fir'aun was in pursuit with his army, and they were just in front of that sea, that ocean. He was commanded to strike his staff. فانفرق. The sea itself opened. فكان كل ضوء فكان كل ضوء عظيم. Yes. So every single part of the ocean, it sprung up and it made a path. And the people of Musa alayhi salam, they could walk. And we spoke about the Thamud and Salih alayhi salam, how they asked for a miracle. And Salih alayhi salam told them, you tell me what miracle you want. It was not a miracle that came from Prophet Salih alayhi salam's side. They got to choose. What do you want to see? Nothing is difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they said that camel. So again, you see this time and time again, that all these things are biyadillah. And we'll mention some of the other miracles that the other prophets alayhi salam did. So the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, it spread. It spread in the city. It spread in the land. So this was something unusual. A man that was thrown into a fire and survived and came out of the fire without any burns, anything. So the people started talking about this. This was unusual. And the speech reached the king of the area. Some of the scholars, they say his name was Nimrud. This king was a kafir. He was a disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah Azza wa Jalla mentioned in detail about Ibrahim alayhi salam's encounter with this man. So this man, the king, when he heard about this, he brought Ibrahim alayhi salam in front of him. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِي حَاجَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي رَبِّهِ أَنْ آتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكِ. There's a beautiful benefit from this part of the verse. Notice how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنْ آتَاهُ اللَّهُ الْمُلْكِ. That Allah Azza wa Jalla gave this man kingdom. This man was a king. This shows us that wealth and earthly possessions don't mean anything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal gives mulk, kingdom to the Muslim and the Kafir. But it is only the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that Allah Azza wa Jal gives iman to. So this man, he had a big kingdom, but he didn't have that iman. And he wanted to argue with Ibrahim alayhi salam. So what did he say? He asked Ibrahim alayhi salam about Allah, about his Lord. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam, he responded. And he said, my Lord is the one that gives life and takes away life. The man responded with, Ana uhyi wa umeet. I do the same. I give life and I take away life. And he called, as is mentioned in the narrations, he called 2 slaves. He killed one and he let the other one go free. And he said, I do the same thing. Now, pay close attention to what Ibrahim alayhi salam does next. Does Ibrahim alayhi salam engage the king with explaining what he really meant about giving life and taking away life? No. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he moves on. He mentions another thing. And these scholars have said it shows that sometimes when you see that a person is being stubborn, that they only want to prove their own point, it is better that you move on and you try to make the person understand from a different point of view. If Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted to, he could have kept talking about how Allah Azza wa Jal gives life and takes away life. But he realized that this king wouldn't be able to be persuaded by that argument. In our daily lives, sometimes we meet certain people. If you talk to them, if you see them having a problem, they haven't understood an issue properly. If the person is a person on the same wavelength as you, then all you might have to do is to say to the person, there's actually a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ found in such and such a book, and it's authentic. The person will say, oh, I didn't know about this hadith. Jazakallahu khairan, I'll look it up myself. Other people might not be on that wavelength. You talk to them about hadith. The person says to you, I don't even believe in hadith. Then as a Muslim, you don't give up. You say, okay, you don't believe in hadith, that is an issue, but let me try to convince you through using the Quran. Another person, a non-Muslim, if you were to quote the Quran, they'll tell you, I don't believe in your scripture. Convince me through logic. And so on. Just today, without mentioning any names, I had a young man that came and visited. And this young man had a lot of doubts. And he said, as soon as we sat down, I asked him, how can I help you? So the person that brought the young man said, this young man has a lot of doubts. I said, okay, where do we start? Mention a doubt to me and then I'll try to explain it. The young man said, I have too many doubts. I said, start somewhere. He said, okay. And he started mentioning point after point. Okay? a lot of different points. Some from Hadith, some from Quran, that he had difficulties with understanding. And from his speech, I understood one thing. That even though this person is mentioning these different points, there's an underlying issue. There's an underlying issue. Now, if I wanted to, I could have engaged with him and gone through point by point. But when you realize that there's a bigger issue at hand, you need to address that issue first. So I asked the person, I said, do you believe in Allah? Because a lot of these points that he was mentioning, they all came back to belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the person said, to be honest, I have doubts. So I said, that is the point that we should be talking about. That is the first point. It's no benefit of us discussing the side points about hadith and different incidents if we don't even agree on the basics. So you see how sometimes you have to move on from one point. And you have to move on to a different point in order to make the previous points and the coming points clear as well. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he could have chosen to focus on that. But he went on. And he said, my Lord is the one that makes the sun rise and set from different directions. Now, the man, the king, what could he do? Nothing. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَهُلِكَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ, that disbeliever was stunned. He didn't know how to respond. So this shows us, through the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the best way of giving da'wah. Time and time again, Ibrahim alayhi salam talks to people based on their level of understanding. And he keeps his cool. Some people, even that individual that I was speaking about, the young man, after talking, he said to me, Imam, you're the first Imam that didn't start shouting. You're the first Imam that didn't start calling me by names. But this is how Muslims should be. If you see someone that is struggling with their faith, you calling that person names, making them feel in a certain way, it's not going to improve the situation. It's going to make the person dislike knowledge, dislike Islam, dislike the masjid, dislike Muslims. And he told me, he was very frank, he said, I've been to so many imams before. And every single imam, the conversations always ended by them shouting at me and calling me shaitan and calling me this and that. Yet we see Ibrahim alayhi salam, the example we should be following. He's standing in front of a king who just killed a man and let another man go. Yet that doesn't change him. And when the king is arrogant and he says to him, Ana uhyi wa umit, I give life and I cause death, Ibrahim alayhi salam doesn't get upset. He moves on with his argument. Yet today, if a person says there was a young man from a Muslim family that has doubts, the first thing people do is they get emotional, they get angry, and they say, A'udhu billah. Yes, this is not something good. But you need to approach it in a calm and collected way. So this is one of the examples that we learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then we reach a stage where Ibrahim alayhi salam, he wants to increase his knowledge and his certainty. The scholars in Islam, they say there is 3 levels. 3 levels of yaqeen. And inshallah we'll conclude it with this part of the story. 3 levels of yaqeen. There's ilm al-yaqeen, knowledge of certainty. And then there's ayn al-yaqeen, connected with the sight. And then the scholars, they say the highest level is haqq al-yaqeen. Ilm al-yaqeen, ayn al-yaqeen, and haqq al-yaqeen. Now, Ibrahim alayhi salam, the scholars in Islam, they say he had this ilm al-yaqeen. Ilm al-yaqeen means that you receive the truth in the form of revelation. Okay? You read in the Quran about people before you. You read in the previous scriptures that there is a creator. And Ibrahim alayhi salam received that wahy. And Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted to increase that. To see all these things that he received with his own eyes. Aynul yaqeen. So what does he say? He says, "O my Lord, arini kayfa tuhyil mawta." Show me how you bring the dead back to life. Some people, they use this verse in the wrong way. And they say Ibrahim alayhi salam had doubts. But Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't have doubts. He had ilm al-yaqeen. He was certain. But why did he ask this? He wanted to see it with his own eyes. And he was not the only prophet that made such a request. Musa alayhi salam made a similar request. He wanted to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And later on realized that no one could see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, I want to see how you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bring the dead back to life. And in that verse, Allah Azza wa Jalla instructs Ibrahim alayhi salam to take 4 birds. And these birds, he's commanded to cut up, to chop into small pieces. Not only kill them, but to chop them up. Not only that, but he is commanded to mix the different parts of the different birds. And to place these birds in different places. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, call these birds. What is he calling? Pieces of meat. Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, call these birds, and they will come to you. And subhanAllah, Ibrahim alayhi salam does that, and these birds in front of his own eyes, he sees them coming back to life. And this is one of the things that the scholars in Islam do refer to it as Aynul Yaqeen, meaning that he saw it, someone seeing it with their own eyes and realizing the truth that way. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, once he has that encounter with the king, the outcome is that he has to leave the city. The outcome is that he has to leave the city. He has to do hijrah. And do you know how many people believed in Ibrahim alayhi salam? All that time that he was calling people, he was trying to debate with people. Out of all the people, how many people do you think believed in Ibrahim alayhi salam?
Just his wife.
Before that, there's mention of Lut alayhi salam. Okay, that part comes later on in the story. But at that moment in time, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَآمَنَ لَهُ Lut. That Lut is the only person that believes in him. And he is the nephew. Some scholars have said that he is the nephew of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Imagine that. Prophet like Ibrahim alayhi salam, calling his people with such eloquence, trying to make them understand. And out of all that, only one person believes. And not only that, but they're forced to leave the place and they're forced to do hijrah. And hijrah, like the Prophet ﷺ, is to leave a place of kufr and shirk and go to a place of Islam. Okay, so Ibrahim alayhi salam at that moment in time, he didn't have that place where he could find other Muslims. So Allah Azza wa Jalla sent him to a place referred to in the Quran as the Blessed Land. The Blessed Land. Also known as Ash-Sham, which today is the area of Palestine, Lebanon, Urdun, Jordan, and Syria. This area is known as Ash-Sham, and it's mentioned many times in the Quran that it is the place where Allah's blessing came down. And Allah Azza wa Jalla blessed this area. And a lot of the prophets came from this area. And Ibrahim alayhi salam moved to that area. If you remember in the previous classes, where did Ibrahim alayhi salam live? He lived in what is today known as Iraq. And back in the day, that area was known as Babylon, right? And then he moved and he settled down in that area of Ash-Sham. And from his children and his offspring, all the prophets came in that area. And inshallah, in the upcoming class tomorrow, we will carry on with the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, what he did when he, after he made that hijrah, moving from that place to settle down, him and Lut alayhi salam, and we will mention a bit more about the rest of the story. So inshallah we will conclude here for today.